Hey there, I'm Natalia, and I'm a beer sommelier and advanced cicerone. I teach people about beer for a living because I believe that beer is simply too delicious to remain undiscovered, and I want to help everyone find their favorite. In this video, we're going to talk about hops. What are hops, I hear you ask? Hops are the plant that gives beer its bitterness. They also contribute to its aroma and flavor too. For a quick introduction to all of beer's ingredients, check out this video first, then come back here for a deep dive into hops. Ready? Let's get started. Often called the spice of beer, hops give beer bitterness, aroma, and flavor, but they also play a few other key roles, like helping to support beer's head of foam and preventing beer from spoiling by inhibiting the growth of bacteria. This is actually why hops were first adopted by brewers, as they gave beers a longer shelf life. Hop plants are tall, climbing vines that produce small cones with delicate leaves surrounding a resinous core. And it's inside this resinous core where hop's two key components are found, their bittering alpha acids and aromatic essential oils. In order to impart bitterness, hops need to be boiled. Why? Their bittering alpha acids don't dissolve particularly well, but during the boil a structural change takes place, forming iso-alpha acids, which can dissolve into beer. A typical boil lasts 60 to 90 minutes, and the longer the hops are boiled, the more bitterness is extracted. Why is bitterness important in beer? It balances out malt sweetness and gives beer a refreshing edge. Measuring a beer's dissolved iso-alpha acid content gives us a way to communicate its bitterness on a scale called IBU, or International Bitterness Units. It's important to remember, however, that IBU is a measure of bitterness alone. It doesn't take into account the level of malt sweetness in a beer, which can impact a beer's perceived bitterness. 50 IBU will taste very different in an English barley wine compared to a best bitter, for example, as bitterness tastes stronger in weaker beers. Hops don't only contribute bitterness though, they also contribute to beer's aroma and flavor. As hops are aromatic compounds, the essential oils are very volatile. They dissipate quickly during the boil. To focus on this aspect of hops' character, the spice, hops will be added late in the boil, just after the boil, or after fermentation once the liquid is cooled completely. Hops added late in the boil, typically the last 15 to 30 minutes, are often called flavor additions as they contribute both a bitter taste and bold aroma. Adding hops after fermentation is a process called dry hopping. It brings out intense hop aroma, but at high levels it can contribute a grassy taste and slightly astringent mouthfeel from the tannins in the hops. Fun fact, the letters DDH on a beer mean that it's been double dry hopped, or dry hopped twice. There are hundreds of different hop varietals, but most hops are classified into one of three groups: bittering, aroma, or dual purpose. Bittering hops are used for their high alpha acid content, so they're added early in the boil. Aroma hops are prized for their essential oils, so they're added late. Dual-purpose hops, as the name suggests, bring the best of both. Hops can be added to a brew in a variety of formats, from whole cone to pellet, extract, and oils. Each has its own advantages and disadvantages. Whole cone hops are most traditional. The hops are harvested, dried, and packaged into big bales. These dried hops are then added directly into the brew. While they deliver a big aroma hit, they can soak up a lot of beer, leading to waste. Pelletized hops are dried hops that have been ground up and compacted into small pellets. As there's less plant material, there's less beer absorption and waste. Plus, they save on storage space. But the processing they're put through can reduce their aroma contribution slightly. Finally, extracts or oils have no plant material. They're shelf-stable liquid extracts that directly impart hop bitterness or flavor. What form is used largely depends on when they're added to the brew and the flavor profile the brewer is aiming to achieve. We've now talked about the flavor impact of when and how hops are added to the brew, but where hops are grown can also have a significant influence on the aromas and flavors they express. Hops require a certain amount of sunlight per day, so they tend to grow best in specific climates between the 35th and 55th parallels. This narrow latitude band includes the noted hop-growing regions of Germany, the Czech Republic, the UK, the Pacific Northwest in the US, and Australia and New Zealand in the Southern Hemisphere. Within each of these regions, hops develop unique aroma and flavor profiles based on the soil type, level of rainfall, climate, and more. Here's an idea of how hop traits vary by region. German and Czech hops, including those known as noble hops like Saaz, are described as being floral, spicy, or perfumey. UK-grown hops have minty, peppery, and woodsy aromas. Classic examples include Fuggles and East Kent Goldings. Finally, US and New World hops from Australia and New Zealand, like Cascade and Galaxy, can burst with aromas and flavors of tropical fruit, resin, and pine. Historically, brewers would have been limited to the hops that grew locally, hence why certain hop profiles are considered characteristic for certain beer styles. While both beers have a similar level of bitterness, an English IPA has floral, peppery, or orange-like aromas from its traditional English hops, while an American IPA tastes more like grapefruit, pine, or resin from the American hops it contains. As you can see, hop choice can have a big impact on a beer's flavor profile. And these days, new hop varietals are continually being developed to introduce even more unique aromas and flavors to beer, everything from berry and melon to coconut and white wine. Clearly, hops have come quite far from their early days as a preservative, and I hope this video has helped to make hops' contribution to beer's bitterness, aroma, and flavor a bit easier to understand. Now, I know I've said that beer is typically made with 4 ingredients, which we've now covered, but that doesn't stop brewers from adding additional ingredients to their beers to change its flavor, texture, or strength. We've got one last video left in this series to cover some of the additional ingredients brewers might use, from fruits and vegetables to herbs, spices, and more. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss it, and thanks for watching.